Well, welcome, McLean Church, and thank you for joining us today as we're continuing our sermon series entitled Simple Summer. We're talking about some very practical ideas for living out our faith, for living wisely in the world. And today we want to continue that theme by talking about marriage, and in particular, how do you determine the person that you're going to marry? How do you choose a spouse? Who do you decide that you're going to commit the rest of your life to? Recently, I came across a paper that our son Nathan had written, obviously very early on in his life. Things I expect in a girl. He was thinking about this issue very early on. And if you can decipher maybe kindergarten, first or second grade writing, he was looking for someone who would be nice, kind, and smart, a Christian, loving, and drug-free, and not a crybaby. This is a picture of our son Nathan and his lovely wife Andrea. I'm pleased to report that she is both drug-free and not a crybaby. But we all have lists in our minds, don't we, of what that perfect person, that perfect mate, that perfect spouse will look like. And today I want to share some observations and thoughts I have about that after almost 35 years of performing wedding ceremonies, watching couples struggle with challenges in their marriage, experiencing almost 38 years of marriage myself. I have a few thoughts about what makes a good marriage and how you find that right person. And I want to share those with you today, understanding and admitting that this is not a sermon in the truest sense of the word. I'm not going to use biblical citations to support most of my points. I'm not claiming to be speaking on behalf of God as I share these. These are just observations according to Brian. You can take them or leave them as you choose. But my hope is they'll be helpful to many of us listening and hearing this as we think about that really important decision of whom should I marry. So 10 ideas, we'll take them right straight through. Here's the first. Don't look for someone to complete you. Don't look for someone to complete you. Oftentimes, those of us who have been married for some period of time will talk about the fact that our spouse has completed us. And the idea is a good and valid one. The terminology, not so helpful. If you are not married right now, what you need to know and understand on the authority of Scripture is you are complete just as you are. You do not need a spouse to fulfill you. You do not need to be married to be the best version of yourself. The Bible does tell us that we have been given everything as we are that is needed for life and godliness. Everything we need to navigate life successfully, God has given us in connection and in union with Himself. We don't need a spouse to provide that for us. If you're in a relationship right now with someone and you're thinking, I have to marry this person for my life to be complete, that might not be the best way to think about it. Instead, think about it in terms of, I am complete as I am in my union with God. Now, might this person help in my further development? Don't first look for someone to complete you. Realize you are complete in God. Secondly, date casually before committing. Date casually before committing. Our culture has this notion that when you start to date a person, it needs to become an exclusive commitment almost immediately. This is not a healthy approach to dating. Dating is designed for us to begin to meet people, to begin to experience people who might become our spouses. It's not designed to be an exclusive commitment or relationship upon the first date. I've shared this story before that my wife Tavia was the master of this. When we first met in college and began to date, she dated liberally because she had this thought or understanding that she would go out on a date with anyone who asked her, provided they hadn't given her a legitimate reason to say no. So it was very clear to everyone who dated Tavia that she was not interested in an exclusive relationship at these early stages of the dating game. She was dating to get to know other people, to begin to explore the type of person she might want to marry. You've heard me tell the story of waiting at her house for her to get home from her first date one evening before I could take her out myself. Now, of course, fortunately, she ultimately saw the light, saw the wisdom in making the right choice, but dating casually is part of setting the foundation for a more exclusive relationship later to come. Date casually before committing. 3, ask yourself the question, is this a person I would really want to spend the rest of my life with? Is this a person I would really want to spend the rest of my life with? Seems obvious, but it wasn't obvious to me as a teenager. I remember hearing a pastor make this point, and all of a sudden I realized that the people I was dating, they weren't people that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. I was just enjoying a present moment with them. But if the purpose of dating is ultimately to help us find someone we will spend the rest of our lives with, then doesn't it make sense at the start that we're asking the question, is this a person I would want to live with for the rest of my life? 5 more. Look for a person as a future spouse whom you have to run to keep up with, not who you have to constantly drag along from behind. Of the 10 points in this list, this may be one of the most important. Look for a person you have to run to keep up with, not someone you're constantly dragging along from behind. Another way to say this is don't settle. Look for someone who is your equal or beyond, because a lifetime of dragging a partner along becomes a very long journey. The person who will bring out the best in you is someone who is always challenging you to push ahead, to move ahead. Look for the person you have to run to keep up with, not someone you're dragging along from behind. 5, pay attention to what your friends and family think about the person you're dating. Pay attention to what your friends and family think about the person you are dating. If your friends and family can't stand the person you're considering marrying, one of two possibilities exist. Either they're misguided and they don't see the reality of the person you're in relationship with, or, and quite frankly, this is most often the case, your friends and family, whose perspective is not blinded by infatuation, who know you so well, are probably seeing things in this other person that they realize are not ultimately compatible with who you are. So take the input of your friends and family seriously. They're not the last decision, and many a successful marriage has been made out of a spouse that the other spouse's family completely rejected. But if there's hesitation by those closest to you, that's something to pay attention to. And in fact, their opinion is something that's important to seek. Don't hesitate to ask those closest to you, what do you think of this person that I'm considering entering a marriage relationship with? A few more. Remember, time is on your side. But at some point, you have to make a decision. It takes time to get to know another person. We can all wear a convincing mask for a temporary period of time, but over a span of time, the real us usually emerges. Take enough time that the person you're considering as a potential future spouse can both see the real you and you can see the real them. If you haven't had enough time where the masks for both of you have come off, you haven't had enough time. But understand also that it's not healthy to date forever. Dating is not a permanent relational state. It's a means to an end. Dating is preparation for marriage. So at some point in that dating relationship, we need to decide either this is the person that I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life with, or no, this isn't. And when I decide no, this isn't, it's really time for that relationship to end. Staying in that in-between state too long is not a healthy place to live or a healthy place to exist. Time is on your side, but at some point, a decision has to be made for more. Spiritual compatibility is important. It's really important, but it can look different or than we've at times considered it to look. Simple way of saying that is, yes, Catholics and Protestants can marry each other and have successful marriages. It's not a question so much of the details, it's a question of the larger framework by which we view and approach life. And having that compatibility and that similarity is essential, but again, that can take different forms and different shapes. It's important if you're in a relationship with a person that you're considering marrying, that you have spiritual conversations, that you talk about what you both believe, how you approach this journey called life. Where does God fit in this bigger picture? And on those larger issues, compatibility is almost essential, because those issues form the bedrock of a healthy relationship. But if you don't line up in every particular, don't necessarily be concerned. It's the bedrock, the foundation, that matters. 8, ask and take seriously, what is their family like? Observe their family of origin. It's not a guarantee of what this person is like, but it will at times give you a significant window of insight into how this person is going to function in a family situation. How will they parent? How will they view marriage? Again, not a guarantee. Many a person has come out of a very dysfunctional family situation to emerge as a wonderful spouse, a wonderful parent, better than they would have been had they seen a healthy family modeled. But still, take into consideration what you see in each other's family of origin, and where there are things that are concerning, those really need to be talked about before an ultimate commitment is made. Number 9, don't play fair. Don't play fair. And here's what I mean by this. Certainly be a person of integrity, be a person who does the right thing in a relationship. But sometimes I've seen people in dating relationships say, I don't think this is the right person for me. But if I end this relationship, it will devastate them. I don't think this is the right one for me, but they think I'm the right one for them, and I don't want to hurt them or let them down, so I need to stay in this relationship. No, you don't. Please understand, if the relationship is not good and right for you, it will not be good or right for the person you're in that relationship with. If something doesn't feel right in your spirit about this relationship, it's important to act to resolve that, either by talking through the issue that concerns you and seeing it come to appropriate resolution, or having the courage to say, you know what, this is really a deal breaker. As much as I care for you, as much as I respect you, as much as I even love you, I don't think you're the right person for me to commit to in a marriage relationship. Don't play fair is my simple catchphrase for suggesting we need to have the courage to make the tough decisions, even if those decisions might initially cause hurt and pain to the person we're in relationship with. Remember, if the relationship is not right for you, it's ultimately not right for them either. Final point I want to make, maybe the most important and maybe the most sensitive, but I think it's one that needs addressed and some things that need to be said. And that is, as you prepare for marriage, follow the order of operations. Follow the order of operations. You know, in mathematics, there's an order of operations for solving equations. And basically speaking, you remember it from your high school algebra class. You do the calculations in parentheses first. You do multiplication and division left to right first, and then you do addition and subtraction the same way. You follow this order of operations to get the right result. And the reason you want to get the right result is because in the practical world of mathematics, that is, you know, outside the classroom, we're using an equation to solve real-world problems. We're using an equation to come up with an answer that we need for something in life. Well, culture and tradition has established an order of operations for creating a marriage. And the order of operations, generally speaking, unfolds this way. It starts with casual dating, and then there's more exclusive dating, and then there's a quasi-commitment in the form of an engagement, and that leads to a formal and binding commitment expressed in a wedding ceremony as a marriage. And then we begin to live together and experience the reality of our union in full dimension or completely. Culture and traditions have recognized that there is great value in following that order of operations. But of course, what we all know is that in our present culture, the order is often reversed. Often people begin in a very exclusivistic dating relationship. They move quickly to living together and experiencing that union fully, namely through sexual experience. And then only down the road is that commitment formalized in marriage. Now, I know many wonderful and successful marriages that have followed that order. But I want to suggest to you it's not the wisest or the best order. And I want to suggest that to you not on the basis of morality. I want to suggest that to you on the basis of wisdom. You know, in math class, as you were learning those order of operations in an equation, if you got the order wrong, which often happen because it's hard to keep track of what you're supposed to do first, second, and third. If you got the order wrong, the math teacher didn't come to you and say, "You bad person. You sinful student. You've committed a moral abomination because you did your addition and subtraction first in your parentheses last." No, no, no. The teacher just helped you see that there was a better way, a wiser way to solve the equation, which ended ultimately in the correct result. In a culture that has largely abandoned the wisdom of the order of operations for forming a marriage, I think the call is not so much to call people's moral attention to the change in order as it is to call people's wisdom perspective to the order. Because here's the deal. You can't live out the commitment of a marriage until the commitment has been made. You can't live in the commitment, i.e., living together, experiencing every dimension of life together. You can't fully do that until you have made the commitment. And I know many people would say, well, you know, maybe we've chosen to live together before we're married because we really are committed to one another. I understand that, but here's what we know about human commitments. The most important human commitments, they work because they are formalized. And we know as human beings that we're too fickle most of the time to keep a commitment unless it has a formal expression given to it. Can you imagine going to the bank for your mortgage? Say, you know, I need $200,000 to buy a new home, and the bank says, okay, sure, we'll give that to you. Here's your $200,000. Just pay us back over the next 30 years. Write a check for $1,500 to us once a month. We'll be happy with that. No. The bank formalizes this in a very formal and structured process. Why? Because as human beings, we need that structure to keep commitments. This is why the tradition of wedding ceremonies exists. We need that formal, public, intentional declaration of our commitment for us to fully live into and enjoy the commitment. So if you find yourself in a dating relationship, you're considering perhaps spending the rest of your life together, think about the wisdom of that order of operations. That order is there to help you get the right answer. Now, final thing to say about all this. I truly believe that any marriage, no matter who the partners are, no matter the circumstances out of which the marriage originated, no matter what the families of origin are like, I really believe that most every marriage can succeed and be fulfilling. The question is, how much work is it going to take? Careful thought on the front end can help set us up for a marriage that will succeed with perhaps a reasonable amount, but not an excessive amount of effort required to make it work. Many of us are probably listening to this saying, I wish I would have thought of some of these things 18, 25, 32 years ago. Please know, most every marriage can work and succeed if the spouses are committed, and I would say quickly, with God's help, to make that marriage work. But if I'm contemplating getting married, wouldn't I want to set myself up for the best possible experience and the most likely chance for a good outcome? Following these principles, I believe, will help you do that. And as always, please know, if you're in a relationship that you're trying to sort out, think through, figure out, we as a church are here to help you do that. our pastors, our staff, our small group leaders, they all are powerful and important resources to help you think through, is this the person I am supposed to marry? Is this the person with whom I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life?